Joining me now is Cornwall-born singer-songwriter Melanie Brulée, who released a new single this year with a very special cause behind it. First off, welcome to the show, Melanie.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so you in 2018 you released a critically acclaimed album, and this is sort of the follow-up to that. So maybe we could start with a little bit of background in the journey from releasing that album, coming to writing this new single.
Sure. Well, that album, a lot of it was written on a road trip that I took across the US with a bunch of friends, a lot of whom were songwriters. And yeah, that album kind of came along Route 66. We drove from Nashville to Vegas, and ended up spending like less than 12 hours in Vegas. But it was all about the journey, and it was really great. And I was in a writer's block at the time and ended up writing songs without even having a guitar in my hand sometimes, which was totally bizarre for me. And another proof that, music comes from something bigger, or, you just have to like be open enough and maybe have the space enough to allow yourself to like have the open channel to be able to move that through. And so yeah, I toured a whole bunch with that. I toured a lot in the States. I did a lot on the East Coast, from Philly to DC and New York City and Boston. And I was doing that every few months. I was out on the road, and so I was spending most of my year living out of a suitcase, frankly. And then towards the end of 2019, I decided to take a little break from touring because I was frankly burnt out. I felt like I was losing my community, and that's something that's really important to me. And you come home and people are like, they just assume that you're still gone, and so it takes a lot more effort to have those close friendships around you. And so I decided I was going to take 6 months to like reassess and see what was working for me and what wasn't. And it's funny because I kept saying everything just needs to stop, everything just needs to stop, and then in January of 2020, I started getting back into it, and I thought, I'm going to change the way I tour. I'm going to tour to places where there's people that I want to visit, so that I don't feel alone, so that I don't feel like I'm playing to no one and nobody gets me. It's like it's a tough go. And so just as I started, re-strategizing my career, and getting back into it, COVID hit. And then I thought, so funny that, I'm sure a lot of us were going, everything just needs to stop, like it was pretty intense there for a while for everyone. And it still is now. And so then, having to reassess everything this year, and especially the music industry, where things are so different right now, but there's opportunity there. As crazy and as hectic and as stressful as it is, there's always opportunity when there are big changes like that. And so I decided that I was going to release this song, The Mess, that I had been working on for years. I wrote it with Davy Gallant, who lives in Drummondville and in Quebec. And we went to on Toronto Island here in Toronto. There's an artist residency called Artscape Gibraltar Point, pardon me. And it's an old school that has been turned into an artist residency. So they put you either in a portable or in the school, and then you have a shared kitchen kind of thing. And so that's where I was when we went into lockdown the first time, when it all started happening. And so I came back from the island to, to reality of, oh my goodness, this is for real. And then I kept thinking, like, this is the time to release this song, because 2020 has been a mess. And another way of me reassessing all of this was like, where are my priorities? And for a while, I thought music was at the top and music was the most important thing in my life. And then, there's a pyramid underneath that, if you will. And a very close second in my mind was mental health work, because of my experience, and how I make music is mostly to deal with my stuff. And so, in the last couple of years, I thought about switching that, and so that music was instead a tool to help my mental health work instead of vice versa. And so now that I've done that, it really takes the pressure off of music. It takes the pressure off of how many Spotify streams do you have and who likes you and all that stuff. And really, I don't really give a crap about all of that stuff, unless I have a team around me that's telling me that that stuff is important. But when I really look inside at what's important to me, it's the work that gets done in the community, and it's opening conversations about mental health, and it's supporting people, and it's respecting Indigenous culture. And there's so many important values in my life that are now at the top, and music has become a tool to help that stuff happen.
And you certainly have been using it as such. I know during Mental Health Week, you were doing some podcasts or some videos, and as well, of course, you mentioned that this song itself is very much tied into helping mental health and mental illness, including with some of the proceeds going to CMHA. So why don't you talk to me about all of that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, the song is called "The Mess," and it's a song about anxiety and depression having an argument about who's going to take over the host, if you will, and how you kind of feel a little bit scrambled in all of that. And these are things that I absolutely suffer from. And this year, I'm sure a lot of people who even the most stable people this year are going to have some moments. And that's just a reality. And so, yeah, it's like because of all of that, and talking about the mental health stuff, I really wanted to push the fundraising for the Canadian Mental Health Association Cornwall branch, which I've been involved with for a few years, but this was a good way of like really putting it at the forefront. And so we've put the track on Bandcamp, and as well as on my website. And 50% of the proceeds of the song goes to the Canadian Mental Health Association. And this is important because a lot of the intervention programs for the CMHA are funded by the province, which is great, but the prevention programs aren't. And that's through my work, through my experience, through losing someone to suicide. I realized that like the prevention part of it is equally as important as the intervention part. And if we can put more money into prevention so that we don't have to get to that point of intervention, to me, it's a no-brainer. This year, I've realized how broken our systems are, really. And it's a tiny fractional way of me being able to like give back and put it at the forefront of people's minds.
That's excellent. It's such an important topic. And as you're speaking, I'm remembering too covering Light the Way, an event that happened right here in Cornwall, and you were a performer for that. So this is something that definitely, as you said, goes way back for you, an event that you're helping. And since that time, I think we've really helped to break the stigma because of people like you doing the work that you're doing. And just finally, Melanie, I know you have another single in the works for the new year. I believe it's in French. Correct me if I'm wrong. But maybe we can end with just a little sneak preview at what's coming down the pipe.
Oui, j'ai une chanson en français qui sort au mois de janvier. Est-ce que tu parles français, toi, Gabriel?
Oui, absolument.
Excellent. Mais on peut faire un petit peu en français. Donc. Ouais, c'est une chanson qui s'appelle Crier, qui va sortir au mois de janvier. Ça, c'est une chanson que j'ai écrite en 2015. C'est comme, j'ai comme une valise de chansons, puis une valise de trucs. Maintenant que l'industrie de musique est un peu weird, je peux faire ce que je veux, puis c'est le fun. Alors, c'est une chanson qui a à faire, enfin, avec le suicide de mon père. Et puis, toutes les, toutes les feelings all the feelings of anger that came out of that, and like, and it's a real thing. There's a lot of anger and grief, and anger is usually an emotion, is like a byproduct emotion. Il y a quelque chose d'autre qui se passe en dessous si tu te sens en colère, tu sais. Puis, alors, j'ai écrit une chanson qui s'appelle Crier. Puis, le sujet, c'est d'être capable de crier quand je veux, to like let go of that anger and that energy in a healthy way. And so when I was writing the song, I was at a residency in Gaspésie. And there was a whole bunch of francophones from around the world. We were 12. And the whole point is to like spend a week and everybody comes out with a new song. Whether you collaborate with other artists or you do it on your own, it's totally up to you. And as a bilingual person, I there's some issues in the French scene of acceptance and how French you are. And whether or not people are saying that to you, it's like so deep rooted that I was believing it myself that I wasn't French enough, that I wasn't good enough to be there. And so I had a breakdown and I cried to the ocean in Gaspésie. I was just like, I can't take this anymore. And through moving through that, I realized like, yeah, it is a French residency, but I can write bilingual if I want. That's who I am. Like, who am I to start like trying to put myself in some box, especially when it comes to creativity? You want to be as free as possible. This is an outlet to work out your whole it's a gift that I have to be able to work out all of the jumbled emotions that are inside. And so I started writing about the anger that I felt uh, for my father taking his own life and leaving me. And so I wrote Crier about yelling because when I was writing it, I had my electric guitar not plugged in and I was standing on the side of the ocean. It's just enough that I could hear it. And I was yelling and it felt like a release. And it does feel like a release when I play that song. And it took years for me to get the song just right. And now I feel like it's there. And we're going to release it in the depths of winter because that is the most dangerous time when it comes to mental health. And so, yeah.
Wow, I
January.
mean, what powerful messages in both those songs and powerful stories behind them as well. I want to thank you so much for really being open and sharing the process and the stories behind writing these songs that at the end of the day are going to help a lot of people, whether it be through the money that's raised for CMHA, but also just the messages behind them that people know that they're not alone and help them deal with their own emotions and their own maybe mental health issues and things like that. So I want to thank you very much for joining me. Best of luck as you continue with both of these. And again, people can check out both those singles, one coming up and one on Bandcamp right now.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.